the iconography of the Eastern Church especially has unique qualities that make it a liturgical and a dogmatic art, so that it's an art with authority, which you cannot say about any Christian art today, especially not. I've learned that this iconography, it expresses the most fundamental depths of the Christian faith, and it can help individuals as well as Christian fellowships to grow and to understand the gospel better. It's not a subjective art, although there is a certain freedom of expression for the artist, but you have to know the difference between creativity and faithfulness to the tradition. So you need to know these fundamentals in the content of the art, of course, first of all, the biblical content, and then you need to know how to express this in the Byzantine way. And there are many formal rules. How do you paint a face, garments, architecture, landscapes? Like the mountains in icons, they look like staircases, like steps in a way. And it's a very stylized and abstract way of depicting the environment, which is decorative and aesthetically very pleasing. So you build up a figure in a special way with the darker colors first and then lighter and lighter until you have the outlines again and before the icon is ready. And then you also need to know which inscriptions you should have on the icons, because there is a balance, a dialogue between word and image, which I find very interesting. So an inscription on the painting itself isn't disturbing as it would have been in a more realistic painting. So this is a church art that goes back to the first centuries. We could say that the catacomb paintings from the 3rd century and even earlier is among the absolutely first examples of this art. And then we have mosaics, beautiful mosaics from Ravenna in the northeastern Italy, where the oldest mosaics there are from the 5th century. So it's an old art, and it has been developed and cultivated over hundreds of years and developed into different styles. In the Greek tradition, you have some styles that are different from, let's say, the later Russian, but they are all valid church art.
I love iconography to begin with. It's a magnificent art form, and I think she does a very interesting and unique style, bringing lots of the, say, the colors and the things that seem to come from the Norwegian cultural background. So you get lots of bright reds and blues and greens, sort of like the interior of this church, you know, brought into the iconography. So yeah, I've been a big fan, so to speak, for a long time of the work she does.
I think she's definitely among the most accomplished iconographers in the world today. I like the fact that in adapting an ancient form, she hasn't done so slavishly. She has an aesthetic of her own. She, you know, and it comes through. It's interesting that you can obey an old and established form, but do it in a creatively new way, as she does. She, of course, her sense of color, she has a fondness, not so much for the sort of gaudier, meretricious gold of Byzantine gold leaf, which I never cared for either. I like the older Byzantine gold created on a gesso ground. I don't like the gold leaf in icons nearly as much, though if it's done well, you can see why it's effective. She has created kind of, she has a preference for kind of Nordic blue, which also, the blue has a place in the iconographical tradition, but the particular shade, which I associate with her, is remarkably effective, and somehow she seems to have created a genuinely Norwegian style of Byzantine icon. So yeah, no, they're just very beautiful icons. I just think they're at a level of achievement that is rare.
What I want to say about the blue and the green and golden image or background also is that we need to know the difference between a decorative color and a symbolic. It's very important to know the difference. And these blue backgrounds that I've used on this rosary series and many other icons as well is a variation of a decorative, good background color that brings forth the image. You know, while the golden background has a very strong symbolic significance that you cannot say about ordinary colors, you know, because the gold is reflecting God's own personality, so to speak, which is light. We call it the uncreated light because God is beyond the creation. So the light that comes from God is a burning light and illuminating on a deeper level than an ordinary light would do. Ordinary lights or created lights like the sun, the moon and stars and fire, today electrical light as well, have this ability to enlighten an object, which again casts a shadow, a so-called cast shadow. While in the icons you won't find cast shadows because the light comes from inside, and that is reminding us of God's own personality. Yeah. And Jesus says about himself, I am the light of the world. And he says to his disciples that you are the light. So light is a very important symbol in both the Old and the New Testament. And maybe the most striking light experience we can read about in the New Testament is the transfiguration of Christ, where he was changed in the front of the disciples. They saw that his appearance changed and his face shone like the sun and his garment became white like snow. But it wasn't the sun, it wasn't the snow, it was something different from that came from inside of Christ himself and showed his divinity, you know, something mysterious. Yeah. So the reason why we use gold on backgrounds is exactly to symbolize this spiritual reality that God is beyond his own creation and that he is light.
So what is unique or different about this icon here?
Well, you'll see that it stands out. It's a crucifixion scene, but it's the young boy, the young Jesus, who is crucified, or symbolically crucified, because he has the wounds in his hands and feet, but no nails. So it's a highly symbolic image. And we see that he has some kind of pyjamas trousers on him, and that signifies innocence, young child. But it can also give associations to how the prisoners were clothed in the concentration camps. So here we have a prisoner then, an innocent prisoner. And he is suffering, we see, from his wounds. And under his feet you have this crown of thorns, which is a symbol of extreme suffering. But at the top of his head we see a king's crown, so that's victory. So we have these contradictions in a way that makes our Christian faith so rich, the contrasts. And then I have included two types of weapon, one from Jesus' own time and one from our time. So it's a spear and a gun, and both of them are broken. And that, of course, refers to prophecy, the Old Testament, where it says that the weapons will be made into plows, so that they will be made into something that cultivates and not destroys. And if we look at the colors of the cross here, it's yellow and blue, which give associations to Ukraine and their flag. And this icon was made a few days after the invasion of Ukraine. I was very taken by this event and very sad about it, not the least because I'm indebted to Russian culture, Russian history, literature and philosophy, architecture, icon art. All these things I have tried to incorporate in my life since my study years. And now this very cultural nation is invading their neighbors. So that was very difficult to handle in a way, emotionally. So for me this image became a way of dealing with it.